Hello, I'm Jonathan Decker, licensed therapist and My Little Pony enthusiast. This is Alicia Decker, Grease karaoke champion and co-founder of Mended. You're not? And co-founder of Mended Light. With us today are CJ and Christina Jackson. Well, we have a special bond with them, don't we?
We do.
Why is that?
Because they're family.
Because they're family. CJ is Christina's brother, and Christina, we're all... CJ is Alicia's brother. It's been a long day. I don't know who's who.
Are we shooting this in Alabama? I thought we were shooting this in Utah.
CJ is Alicia's brother. Look, don't take it personally. Even with my own kids, I'm like, what is your name? Who even knows? You know you do it. CJ is Alicia's brother and Christina's husband. So CJ and Christina have a blended family through adoption, through kids that you've created jointly, right? Tell us a little bit about your story, how you came together, and about your family.
So we got married about 4.5 years ago. I had 2 children, Angelina and Derek, at the time, and when we got married. And then, so the process started almost immediately for us to kind of work towards getting the kids adopted by CJ. And it took 3 years for that to happen. So in 3 years, in that time we had one of our daughters, my third child, his
first biological.
Yeah, his first biological child. My third. I mean, third together. And then we were able to adopt them, and then
I was able to adopt them.
yeah, he was able to adopt them.
Yeah, they're already yours.
I know. We have to explain that to the kids a lot.
So 4 kids in 3 years.
For me, I guess.
Way to get it done.
As you know, Alicia has a child from her first marriage, so I also hit the ground running. And so a lot of my friends got married before me, and then I got married, and I already had I had a family already. I'm like, I'm coming for you, man. I'm going to catch up.
We called it Insta Family.
Yeah.
He was looking for an Insta Family.
I was looking for you, and I found you, and you were, what was that?
I found her 14 years ago, and I just had to wait 10 years.
Yeah.
So that was exciting.
So why adoption instead of, having a co-parenting situation or a blended family situation? What's unique about your situation?
My ex was not really a very good co-parent. He was very much absent most of the time. He would call when it was most suitable for him, and it just wasn't what he was interested in. So co-parenting wasn't really working for us. And the children really at that age, they were 4 and 2.
Yeah.
Up and, as they grew. But that's not what they needed. They needed a dad that was there for them all the time. And it was getting really hard for them to kind of be like, well, I have 2 dads, but one only wants to play with me and call me, every now and again, but the other one's here all the time.
Yeah.
So it worked out better, I think, for everybody to just not have the second dad in the picture.
Yeah.
From my perspective, he's only around enough to do harm, really. Like, it was only we had our oldest daughter in therapy for a little while, and then our son for a while too, just because they were like, well, why can he just disappear, or how can he just kind of come and go from their lives as he pleases, in terms of,
Because they'd only see him like once
a year, if
about
that.
and he'd call once,
Maybe once a month.
yeah, on average. So he'd call twice in a month, and he wouldn't call for 2 months, and then he'd be like, call, and, oh, I love you, I miss you, and and then wouldn't call for 2 months. And so
It's a real yo-yo situation for the kids emotionally.
right, especially when he's acting like he's a good dad, and he's acting in his mind he was, but he acts like he loves them, he acts like he's there, when in reality he's not. And for a 5 or 6 year old is what kind of how our oldest was at this time, it's kind of hard to reconcile that.
So you talked a bit about how you made the decision, or why you made the decision. You wanted them to have a consistent father, right? And that's you. I mean, that's one of your greatest strengths that we admire so much about you, is just how much you show up for that family, and they're just your family. Like, there's just no question, they're just your family. Was the process of convincing their biological father to say, okay, were there hurdles there? Was he happy to do it? What is that?
Yeah, I mean, once we kind of, both sides kind of had to lawyer up a little bit. We said, hey, we can do this if you want. Like, I'll adopt them if that's okay with you. But he's a bit of a narcissist, and he thought he was a great dad, so he's like, no way. So it's like, okay, well then unfortunately, we just kind of had to go the child support route. So it's like, well, let's try having to pay child support. You're a great dad in your mind, and you want to be part of their lives. Great. Maybe
It's a little under the radar footnote, like,
I mean, that's
Maybe financially provide for them.
right, because he hadn't done that their entire lives, even while they were married. And so it's like, well, let's see if you can put your money where your mouth was. And so, through months and lots of money for lawyers, they ruled that he would obviously have to pay his child support, and he was in the military and just got a job with the government entity. Yeah. And so they were just going to garnish his wages. So there was no way he was going to be able to get out of paying his court-ordered child support unless I adopted him. Which the judge said, this is what you owe them every month so that they'll take care of your kids. He was like, no.
Yeah.
That's when he was finally like, okay, yeah, sure. And he signed everything off.
I mean, we still had to word it the right way. We still had to be like, well, hey, we know this might be a financial hardship for you. CJ's willing to adopt them so that you don't have to have that financial hardship.
Yeah, I'm willing to take on that financial burden that I had been the whole time, but now was becoming his burden.
Was there any, okay, you can adopt them and you can pay for them, but I still want to be their dad in any way, shape, or form from his end?
We made it very clear that once that happened, we were changing their names, and he was pretty much
out of the picture,
unless they choose to. I mean, we were going to leave it up to the kids. We weren't going to be like, hey, you can't ever contact him again. I mean, we told Angie, she's the older one, so we're like, hey, if you still want to have that open line of communication, I'm not going to tell you no.
Yeah.
However, after about 3 months, she was like, I don't have to deal with this. I'm out. And they haven't. I mean, they asked about him, but
yeah,
they tried to. They called him a few times after everything went through, and he just never answered, and that was kind of that. Unfortunately, like it's hard for them, obviously, in some ways. Like they actually have brought him up a bit this week. And more Derek than Angie, because he was kind of the younger one. But it's like, well, he's not here. He knew he wouldn't be able to be there for you the way I have, so that's why he kind of passed the torch to me. It's kind of what we've had to tell him. Yeah, just the last couple of days.
For some kids in that situation, there is a feeling of rejection, like I wasn't wanted or I wasn't. And that's true for kids in general, that they internalize and they blame themselves. How do you combat that? How do you help them to see what the situation truly was? I mean, you mentioned a little bit just now, but could you go a little further into that?
We just make sure that we just tell them that he just had other priorities. It doesn't mean that he didn't love them. He loved them the best way he could. Doesn't mean, that they were any less loved, and that he just doesn't have the time. He would rather work. And that's just how some people are. Some people would rather work than have a family. And the oldest one, she's very black and white. She's like, okay. The younger one, he's a little bit, the Derek, he's a little bit more emotional. And he's just like, but I don't understand.
He's a tender little soul.
Yeah.
He's like, I still want to see him, or I still think he wants to see me. I was like, well, yeah, it's just.
But you have a better dad now.
And that's in our case, so, Tyler, who's Alicia's biological son, technically my stepson. I mean, to me, he's just family. But we had it very clear because his dad's very much in the picture. And I asked him early on, I said, we're going to have kids together. They're going to call me dad. Do you want to call me dad, or what do you want to do? And he says, I want my dad to be my dad and my Jono to be my Jono. And in our case, I never was seeking to replace his dad because he had that bond and that connection. Yeah. In your case, it's kind of a different animal altogether. So how do you, when for early years they have a dad, right? You very much are a replacement. You've adopted them. You are dad now. Is it tough to transition for them? Is it tough to change gears? How do they get there?
They actually did really well, and we did kind of the same thing because we'd heard how you handled it with Tyler, and we sat down with them. Hey, you know what? We're getting married. CJ can be CJ, or he can be dad, and they both were like, Dad. Okay, great. Yeah. And then eventually it kind of turned into my ex being Eric, not dad anymore. So they called him by his first name, which really upset him, and he was Dad. And so they'd call on the phone and be like, hey, Dad, did this cool thing. Hey, Eric, are you listening? And he'd be like, oh, I'm Dad. And they're like, okay.
This is awkward.
Yeah, and so it was really hard for them.
Moving on.
Yeah. He'd be like, what? He'd kind of get mad about it, but anyway.
They're like, I've heard it both ways.
Right? So that was kind of interesting, too, is because they really were just, well, we want CJ to be Dad, and Eric's Eric. So it was kind of the opposite, where the one that wasn't around, they're like, he's Eric. And he's just, he's our dad, but he's just another person, So that was kind of made it easy on us to kind of for that
Well,
transition.
and like I mentioned in the beginning too, therapy did go a long way because they we had a really good, the play therapy with them so that they can kind of figure out with Angie that worked really well to be able to kind of act out like she'd either draw things or obviously she'd play with different things and she'd really act out a lot of kind of what she was thinking and feeling in terms of like there being this monster and this good guy and this kind of this bit of a battle that she'd had kind of inside her between just the things she was feeling. And that really helped a lot to help her kind of internalize things and help us understand where she was at in her healing process. Because it's kind of hard, especially because she was like 5 and 6, like you can't really sit down and be like, have a heart-to-heart with your kid about what they're feeling and what they're internalizing about this difficult thing because they don't know.
Cognitively, that's
Right.
a little bit above their grasp.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, even adults don't
Get it all the time.
self-reflect so much of the time. But you can't expect a 5-year-old to self-reflect on, well, why am I doing this or why am I feeling this way?
So what I hear you guys saying is, or the principle that I would apply to this situation, and as we've each talked about our individual experiences, is doing what is best to support the child, right? And having those open conversations, and then, you know, getting the therapies or having the conversations. And so the focus being, you know, in an adoption, blended family, step family, the situation, like the focus is what can we do to support the child to give them a healthy, happy environment.
And that's something that her ex wasn't really capable of. Like even when we were with a therapist, and they're like, if he's going to be there, he just needs to be consistent. If he can just call once a week and just do it consistently, that would help so much of the damage that's going on with the kids, so much of the hard time they're having is because he's so inconsistent. I was like, we can make that request. We'll bring that up.
Yeah.
But he was never able to meet that.
He wasn't able to meet that need.
Right. And so, and especially with that happening, it's just like, after trying, we're just like, okay, well, we just need to switch gears here and
just figure out how to help after the phone calls because it would kind of put them back.
yeah,
you
it
know,
would set
for
them
a
back
week.
a lot.
The phone calls would be triggering.
Right.
yeah.
It was very triggering.
So how did you guys help them? I mean, obviously you went in a different direction and changed gears as far as going forward with adoption and stuff like that. But in the moment, the day-to-day, how did you help them through those triggering times?
Our therapist helped a lot with the kids therapist. She kind of gave us ideas for them individually and how to kind of get them to work through it. A lot of it was honestly just making sure they felt loved. It meant CJ giving them extra attention, being like, I love you, I'm here for you, I'm your dad. So they didn't feel abandoned because that's kind of the base, that was the base emotion they would feel is, hey, I feel like my dad doesn't want to talk to me. I don't feel like he wants me, you know, and that was kind of something that was consistent coming out of therapy with them is they just kind of felt like he was just leaving them. He wasn't consistent. And so CJ he tried very hard to make sure that he was consistent with them and everything that he did. I mean, he would work all night and he'd wake up in the middle of the day just so that he could spend an hour with them before he went back to sleep, before he went back to work. And so it was just really making sure that their needs were met, that their emotional needs were met. And I think that's kind of how we survived those.
Yeah.
Those years.
Yeah. Well, you guys are exemplary, honestly. I mean, I know you're human, not perfect, whatever, but the way you've handled this it's inspiring and it's powerful. And we want to thank you for joining us today to share your story. I think it's going to help a lot of people. If you're enjoying what we're doing here on Mended Light, please like, subscribe, click the bell so you make sure you get notified of all of our future videos. We also want to direct you to this other handy dandy video that you'll probably love, being part of a successful step family. The link is right down below. Until next time, keep shining. We need your light.